Well, good evening, pipe smokers in the YouTube community. This is David with the Mythical History Channel. I am coming to you on a rather sticky, hot, extremely hot um, summer day here. It's July, it's around July 6th. Yep, July 6th. Try to get my pipe going here. I am smoking my Eric Norden, a freehand pipe. Shown that before. In that, I am smoking some Hobbit's weed, combination of three different tobaccos. And I'm drinking some Michigan cherry coffee out of my new mug. It's about the only kind of coffee I can drink. But I picked my mug up at a local pottery place. I want to say I'll put him right here. He's a hill giant. I just got to find a name for him. Every time I look at him, I think Bert, but I'm not sure if that's really the right name for him to be. But I wrote a short story, a fantasy story about a hill giant in the game that I developed for the role playing game that I developed, and his name was Guanton. Kind of a intellectual hill giant. You don't really find many of those. He's a person who liked books, so we'll have to come up with a name for him. If you think of a good name for a mug, let me know. Even though it's hot, I am drinking coffee, and I'm wearing a warm shirt here with a t-shirt under it. Reason for that is where I'm situated right now is in the basement, and I just have to work on the circulation in this house because it's like 45 degrees down here. Upstairs it's 68, so it feels good. Down here I'm just freezing to death. So something's wrong with the circulation. I'm not sure what that is, but anyways, with a warm cup of coffee, I even have a heater down here I've turned on a little bit earlier today. It's the afternoon, so we're up to I think it's 87 is the high. The challenge is the dew point. The dew point's like 73%. Said most people like a dew point that's somewhere in the mid 50s. At 60% dew point, people start saying it's kind of sticky outside. I like a dew point that's usually more around 45 or 50, kind of a dry. But you get much lower than that, and you start walking across the carpet, and you shock people. So I don't like being shocked whenever I touch something that's metal. Anyways, I wanted to give you just another update on the GAW. It ends on the 12th of July, and hopefully people can get their VRs or at least an entry in. I had several entries below the actual video, and if you could put them in there, that'd be great. Um, if you can't find that, you're welcome to put them here. But if you have a something you've read in the past, or a movie or something you've seen in the past, either one will do, that you say perfectly kind of encapsulates or spoke to you about pipe smoking, whatever it may be, kind of a modern film or book or something fantasy or whatever it may be, either add that down below. And for those entries below, have one entry. And if you do a VR, give 3 entries for that. And then we'll pull the names out of a hat. I've had several VRs to this, and I was very appreciative of that. I must say, one that really stood out was Michigan E. Piper. He wrote a poem, and I got to say, you need to publish that. That's you have a gift for words, and you need to see about, I don't know, writing a book of thoughts and poems for pipe smokers. I could read something like that while I'm just smoking my pipe. I thought that was extremely well done. If you just picked up a pen and a piece of paper and you started writing, you were definitely gifted in that area. So, as I mentioned, I think on July 4th, the evening when I had a chance to go outside, I'm I'm also going to be doing a tour. Had several people ask a tour about the rooms here, so library goes back in that direction, back a little ways, and um, there's a couple more rooms there. So I'm gonna figure out how to get my camera to be able to see what you're seeing here in the back wall, but then be able to kind of go through and give a tour of the library for those who want to see it. So I'll be happy to do that. So remember, July 12th, you can get a VR in or just add something below. If you can't add it to the other one, you add it to this one. Um, I'll be able to find it. That'll be fine. But anyways, thanks for all the people who's participated, and I've I don't know, it's been great hearing your responses and the things that you've come up with. Some pipe smoking stories. I think it's Parsimonious Pipe also put one on there. I think I got the spelling of that right or the pronunciation of that right, but he put one on about the Quiet Man. I'd completely forgotten about the Quiet Man. I've watched it. I used to watch it almost every year, and it's been a couple of years since I've seen it. But one, I think it's Cat Daddy. He wrote or mentioned. He gave a different illustration, but he mentioned the pipe smoking in Frosty the Snowman, and I'd completely forgotten about that. He actually doesn't smoke, but he does have a corncob pipe. So it's been nice hearing some of these stories and kind of remembering those images, and whether they're in film or they're on in writing. But anyways, just wanted to share that with you, a little bit of an update, and came across something I thought was interesting. I've done a couple of these. We're kind of looking at some text in the Bible, a book, usually in the Old Testament, and we talked about Belshazzar and talked about Alexander the Great and some of the connections that they have between some prophecies or historical statements that are made. And it reminded me of a study I had done a couple of years ago um, about how, if you do read the Bible, one of the things we need to understand is that there are parts of our Bible that, if you read it in English, which probably most people do, you're missing. Part of it is hidden from you. Um, as we probably all know, the Old Testament was written in Hebrew, and small parts of it, Daniel and a couple of the parts, was also written in Aramaic, which is kind of a cousin language to Hebrew. Similar, got the same fonts, but they just have a couple of different words that they use. New Testament was written in what is called Koine Greek. But of course, we probably all know that part of our Bible is hidden from us simply because of translation. One of the biggest examples that you find, at least in the New Testament, is in John chapter 21, the last chapter of John's Gospel. Um, we have the encounter on the side of the sea there, where Jesus tells Peter, he says, "Do you love me?" And Peter keeps responding, "Yes, you know that I love you." And interchange happens three different times. And what you get in the English translation is that he keeps saying, "Do you love me?" And Peter keeps responding, "Well, you know I love you." But what's hidden from us is that there's two different words. In fact, in Greek, there's about 7 different words that are used to convey love, different types of love. Love between a wife and a husband, or within a family, a love of just kind of more like a puppy love, or there's all different types. And the two that are used here, one is agape, which the New Testament writers borrowed from the Greek culture and said it was more of a sacrificial type of love. And they used it to apply to God's love for humanity, like in John chapter 3, verse 16. But every time Jesus says, "Do you love me?" he uses the word agape. at least the first two times. And every time that Peter responds, he uses a different word for love, and it's the word phileo. And that was a love that one person would have for a friend, um, more a familial type of love. So when you read it in the original, you find out that Jesus seems to be asking Peter for something that he doesn't seem to be willing to give, or doesn't know if he can give. And when we read in English, that's hidden from us. But even more so, there is some things in the Old Testament, in the Hebrew, that are hidden from us as well, not just by translation, when you lose a little bit in translation. But this particular truth that I found out was actually in Genesis chapter 5 in one of the genealogies. Now, when we come to a genealogy, regardless of what book it's in, whether reading some history book or something, a lot of times we tend to overlook those and say, that's just a genealogy. I don't really care who beget who or who was the father of this, and may not have any emphasis or any importance. But when you read the genealogy in Genesis chapter 5, it goes from Adam to Seth to Enosh, and it goes all the way down to Noah, where Noah is the one who built the ark. It talks about who was the father of who, and it brings you right to that short little piece of text. What is interesting and what is hidden in that is the fact that in Hebrew, names are generally not translated, but names have a meaning to them. For example, the name Adam means either red, because many believe it comes from the clay. He was made from the earth, the Genesis says. Or it also has a meaning of mankind in general, humanity. Seth has a meaning, and on down, each one of these, you can look in a modern Hebrew lexicon or a dictionary, and you can look these names up, and you can find them. In fact, when I first stumbled across this, I thought, I don't know if that's true. And as I mentioned before, I'm kind of a cynic, so I have to kind of prove things to myself and do my own study. So I went and got the most reliable dictionaries for the Hebrew language today, and I looked these up, and sure enough, they each had a translation to them. As I said, Adam means mankind. Seth, who's the next person, you go right down the line. Seth means determined or appointed, something that's appointed or determined. Enosh and then Canaan. Enosh means despair, and Canaan, or Kenan, Kenan, means sorrow. You look at them, you think it's kind of unfortunate, and a lot of people families would name kids, I guess, after the circumstances that they were experiencing. So those two kind of got a bad rap there. I mean, I wouldn't want my name to be despair or sorrow, but Enosh means despair, and Kenan means sorrow. Mahalalel is the next one, and I think of all of them, he probably was the last person to be able to spell his name, because that's a little bit of a mouthful, but it's fun to say. Mahalalel means the praised, or to the praised, or the blessed God. The last two letters, El, which refers to God as an Elohim. Jared means to go down or to descend. Enoch refers to teaching, or to the teacher, the act of teaching or communicating something. Methuselah, who is the oldest person recorded to live in the Bible, means one of two things: either the man of the javelin. A lot of times they have dual meanings, and also it could also mean his death will bring. In Lamech, which was his son, means to the disparaging, or to those who have been brought low. And then finally in the genealogy, it talks about Noah. Noah was Lamech's son, and Noah's name means comfort or rest. What is interesting about these names in this genealogy that seems to be completely innocuous — why would we even need this genealogy? If you take the names, you can see the chronological order in which everybody was born, who was whose father and who was whose son. But if you substitute the names for the actual meanings in the Hebrew of what those names communicate, then you have a rather interesting statement in the 5th chapter of Genesis. Put together from Adam all the way down to Noah, it would translate like this: mankind determined or appointed despair and sorrow, but the blessed God to descend, teaching his death to bring to the despairing or the cast down comfort and rest. It's an interesting statement to be found in the book of Genesis, a message that really kind of communicates the grand narrative of what the Bible is all about. So, next time that you're reading a genealogy, think about the actual words, because the names that are there are not translated. They're just what would be called transliterated. That's exactly how they would sound kind of in Hebrew. In fact, if you ever read the book of Ruth, if you were a Hebrew reading Ruth, all the names that are in there would give you an entirely deeper understanding of what the book of Ruth is about, uh, because every name carries a meaning, and the people that are in that story of Ruth, which is a beautiful just story in and of itself, um, just would make the average Jewish person say, "What an amazing story!" Um, and maybe we'll do something on the Book of Ruth and kind of go through um, those names, because it's a, I mean, even just you have a family who's suffering from starvation because there's a famine in Bethlehem. And of course, that would seem odd to a Jew because the word Bethlehem literally means the house of bread. You have a famine in the house of bread. Why do you have that? And that's what the story is kind of talking about. So don't overlook those names whenever you come across them in some of the ancient manuscripts, because they may be communicating something that's rather unique. So, anyways, remember the giveaway. Give a VR or a statement about some way in which you've seen pipe smoking illustrated in a book you've read, or a story, or even just a movie, anything of that nature. And we'll be drawing for that on July 12th, and I'll announce the winner there. So have a blessed day, and we'll talk to you soon.